So as you guys know, I'm a NASCAR fan, big time NASCAR fan at this point. I became a NASCAR fan in 2021 officially. I was always a fan kind of as a kid. I loved the Intimidator Dale Earnhardt Sr. But the thing about NASCAR is it's got a history of not necessarily being too inclusive of people that look like me, right? So I was never bought into the part where I was just following it faithfully until 2020 when during COVID there was a young black driver, our only black driver. His name is Bubba Wallace. He was driving the number 43 Chevy by, golly, I'm sorry, I can't think of the Richard Petty Racing for Richard Petty Racing. And he's from Alabama and they were having a race in Talladega in Alabama and there were some nooses found in his garage stall. Now, they come in and they say, at the time, they say, when they do the investigation, those weren't nooses, those were just tie pools, and that's just how they do it down there. I'll just let that breathe. But at the time, it was, they put Bubba at the front of the field, and all the drivers sat up there, and they all walked with him to the starting grid, and they kind of pushed him out front. It was a beautiful thing. One of the people at the front of the line was Kyle Busch. Okay, at the time, Kyle Busch was driving the number 18 Toyota Racing Camry for Joe Gibbs Racing. He was one of the first people to put Bubba on in his truck series because he had a truck racing team as well. And yeah, so he was a good guy. You know what I mean? He's a two-time NASCAR champion, one of the winningest drivers in NASCAR history.
How many
He's a
times?
dog, two-time.
2 time. Oh, okay.
Two-time. Yeah, he's a beast, man. So when I started watching, that was 2020. That made me kind of tap in. 2021, Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin team up and they start 2311 Racing. They're also racing with Toyota Racing. So they spun off their own. And as I'm watching, and I started watching the races religiously. I keep seeing Kyle Busch, number 18, at the front of the things. And you know, when I started following it, I also went through and started YouTubing some of the old races and the history. And I fell in love with Kyle Busch, dog, because this man talks so much shit. His swag
Oh,
was impeccable. Oh my God. There's a clip of him. I don't know who he was talking about, but he does this wham, wham, wham thing, and all the people was booing the shit out of him all the time. And I loved it. He was like the villain. And then he wins a race. I see him win one of the races and he gets out of his car, he gets the flag, and he does this thing where he takes a bow, like he takes the flag and he does this bow. That shit was hard. So to me, I was like, oh, that's just hard. So my favorite driver was Bubba Wallace, Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin. So then, and he had a brother, Kurt Busch. I think Kurt Busch was racing for 2311 then too. He was driving the 45 car. So those were my top drivers. As time goes on, he rode the M&Ms, they was the primary sponsor. M&Ms backed out, and so he lost like his sponsorship, and he ends up leaving from Toyota Racing and going to drive the 8 car for Richard Childress Racing, who used to be the owner of the Dale Earnhardt car. Okay, so so after he went to the Chevy team, he didn't have the success, but May 21st, we found out that he suddenly passed away, suddenly tragically passed away. Now, the weekend before that, he had won a truck race and, they interviewed him and he was just saying how it's special because you never know when it's going to be your last one. It's kind of eerie now that we look back. But there was a point where on Thursday, he died on a Thursday. So when I wake up that morning, I see that, that my news says, he's going to miss the Coca-Cola 600 Memorial Day race for because of the illness, for an illness. Because he had raced that weekend before and said he needed a doctor to meet him at the at the at the finish line or whatever. So he was having some issues. Sound like he had pneumonia. I was just kind of battling his way through it because in racing, that's what they do, dog. There's no days off. Like they got these sponsors and they have to perform for these guys for the, for their cars. Those conditions are, it can get up to 160 degrees in these cars. They don't have air conditioning. They don't have like they got these suits where it'll pump some cool water kind of through the suit, but if it cuts off or stops working, you're screwed. You know what I'm saying? Then it's just hot, like you just hot as hell. So I don't know what his conditions was, but sounds like throughout the week, in the simulator, he had an incident where they called 911 because he was in distress. That's how they end up getting him into the hospital. And then we find out he has sepsis. And, I'll throw it to Melvanti for what sepsis is, but it sounds like once that hit, it was a wrap. So we lost him and I was hurt. Like to put it mildly, I was hurt, bro. Like I was so hurt because I would be around here, Kyle Busch, Kyle Busch. That was my shit. Like I got my little grandsons running around hollering Kyle Busch. My son was calling him Kyle Kush. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause just because said like the whole house loved Kyle Busch because I fell in love with him. And so when he passed, my wife was at a therapy appointment for her shoulder or whatever, and she overheard somebody saying, and she called me. She's like, "Babe, are you okay?" And I'm like, "No." And I was crying and shit. Like that shit hurt my feelings, dog. So he had a wife, Samantha. They have two kids. Son's name is Brexton. He's a racer, just turned 11 years old, did everything with his dad. His dad set him up with the racing equipment and everything. He's going to be a monster too. He had already signed. So when Richard Childress Racing signed Kyle, they also signed Brexton to a future contract. So Richard Childress Racing announced that the number 8 is going to get retired, and they will hold it for Brexton for when he comes on the NASCAR. So that's the thing about NASCAR too. They are about each other. So there was a lot of tributes and shit to him. His wife was up there. His brother Kurt. That shit broke my heart. But just seeing there's another driver. His name is Kyle Larson. His son is about the same age. He also races, and he went up and was hugging the wife and like trying to console her too. So it's like it is a close knit family, and I just wanted to shout out Rowdy and Rowdy
Yeah, no
Nation.
doubt,
So
no doubt.
you know what I'm saying. Thank y'all for letting me do that.
Oh, for sure,
For
man.
sure.
Yeah, yeah. Prayers for him and his family. You know what I'm saying? For his family, making it through a tough time right now. I know it's a tough situation to go through. So, you
He's
know,
only 41.
yeah, yeah.
It's crazy.
I know.
Tony, let me add to that because the NASCAR racers, they're also generational. Like
Yeah.
the Dale Harts, yeah, they're generational. So yeah,
Yeah, so typically when you get, when their dad does it, I mean, it's like that's why I'm saying it's such a tight knit group because once a dad does it and the son falls in love with it, some of the daughters too, because it sounded like one of the Earnhardt's daughters, she was racing too, Kelly Earnhardt, and they get involved in the whole business thing. So it's like they run the business, they run the memorabilia's and the cars, the diecast cars, and all that kind of stuff. So it's all something we should. Not that we should, but it's it's like that.